Old Mage Guy is now live. Streaming politics. Morning news with OMG.
Alright, so would be going a little bit better. But waiting on delivery of Little Dog. Oh, nice! Yep, there it is. Oh, God. Well, you know enough dirty shit to know exactly what they're talking about. A little dirty or kinky. So part of the reason I started up the stream was because knowing my luck, that would have meant that Little Dog delivery would have arrived. Currently, my luck is not on my side. Which is saying something. Usually that's the way my luck is. Not today, apparently. Either that or it's going to have to actually start the news clip. Because that would also be within standards. Start up a news clip, a game, or a stream. Usually something
YouTube,
to think.
Office help, this just in. Earthquake up here in my neck of the woods. Shook me out bed. Thought my propane tank blew up.
Oh shit! You doing alright? Now, is there an actual damage assessment to be had, or? Honestly, if there was earthquake down this way, I wouldn't be able to feel it. I've got a big white fluff ball in the back that creates a earthquake imitation all the goddamn time. So even if it made it down here, I wouldn't feel it. Definitely distance travel. Haven't heard anything from Mom and Dad yet either, so they might not have noticed it. Threw you out of bed.
Office help, none that we can tell. Fingers crossed.
I don't cross my fingers. That's bad luck for me. I can knock on wood still, though. No, crossing my fingers is something I do when I want things to go bad. For fucking real. It's weird. Whenever I try to cross my fingers for things to go good, it just fucking fails. If I knock on wood, typically works. Yeah. If I cross my fingers, it typically has a negative effect. Knock on wood, positive. So I don't cross my fingers very often. It's not something that you just do in everyday life. Glad to hear that there's no damage. And everyone's alright, right? I mean, that one was meant to be implied, but I probably shouldn't imply it. There's enough people doing that bullshit. We need to say it. Dublin is staring at the door. There's that little dog delivery. Yeah, mom and dad are absolutely loving the truck. They're going apartment hunting today. So I got Khaleesi. I will have Khaleesi. Just wait for their arrival. Go out and pick her up in the truck. Bring her here to her bedding. Blinky is waiting. She's got a Dublin waiting too. For real. Khaleesi has a Dublin waiting for her too. Oh yeah, I don't think the reason to have this sitting on Thursday. So Dublin knows Khaleesi's coming over and is waiting. Are you waiting for your buddy, little old lady? Hmm? Are you waiting for the little old lady? She says, yes. She's my friend. Hey! That's not okay. No, boy. Looks like you're going to be a little bit of a rough one to try to teach that to. Which means I might have to get you claw covers. Mom said she saw them on TV for fairly expensive. Come on, guys! You're holding up my streaming schedule. Nothing like being allergic to or having a mild allergy to dog dander and dealing with it every morning. Yeah. Bad when it's gone from apartment shopping to apartment hunting. I'm sorry. But unless you've got a significant amount of money, you are not apartment shopping. You're apartment hunting. If you have to stay within a budget, you're hunting. If you don't have exactly the highest qualifications they want, making 3 times the amount of rent, you're hunting. I mean, I do. It was called COVID. But even before COVID, prices for rent were getting fucking steep. At least when you're dealing with anyone bigger than a single person renter or single person rental scenario, where the person that's renting the property is one or two people, basically a couple or a single person. Yep. There's the doggy. Alright, I'll be right back.
Young man, caught it out. Taking beat with me this time. You young man are insatiable.
Here's Chi-Chi. Somebody's like, hi! Hi, Chi! Yeah, Devin missed you. I put your blankie down and she was on it, waiting for you, staring at the door. She missed you. Yeah. Devin missed you, Chi-Chi. Devin missed you. Oh.
Cigarette butt in one pocket.
Alright. I made that down. My furry purry. Okay. She has been delivered. Chi-Chi. You're okay, Khaleesi.
I gotta crack this again.
What's that? More than crack. I need to make sure that it stays set for your brother's climate. Because he's a butt like that. And we can have our heater. Yeah, and we can have our heater.
Yeah.
You're okay, Chi. You're alright. She is not happy to have being dropped off today. Okay. Twitch comes back in just a few seconds. And we are back. Alright. Barking's over from Loki. Big booger. Khaleesi is here? Yes, she is. You're okay, Chi. Hi, Brat. Yeah, hi, Brat. Hey, leave him alone when he's drinking. I saw that, Dublin. Don't get him when he's drinking. Just like you don't get him when he's eating. You guys can play, I don't have a problem with that. Just not when he's drinking or eating. Just like I don't want him doing that to you when you're drinking or eating. Come here, Chi. Come here, Chi-Chi. Bring your little furry chihuahua up out over here. Here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're not in trouble or nothing. You're not in trouble or nothing. You're alright. You're okay. Yeah. She does need a little bit of reassurance. Very much an anxiety puppy. She does the chihuahua shake when she gets nervous. A classic fuzzy maraca. Okay. Let us get started. We may be starting a little bit late, and I apologize for that, but life is what it is. And as I've said several times, life comes first. And we started off with Anthony today.
I am so sick of getting texts like this.
And we're probably ending it on Anthony's smoke.
It was.
Sunday, March 2, 2025. I'm Anthony Davis. Welcome to the Weekend Show, where we make the time to consider the news of the week. You can support my work and independent journalism at patreon.com/5minutenews. Our guest today is a researcher and journalist specializing in exposing disinformation and misleading stories on the Fox News network, which she watches so we don't have to. Her podcast and Substack is entitled Decoding Fox News. Juliet Jeske, welcome back to the Weekend Show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. Firstly, thank you for your service. I know it's a lot what you do, taking
Yeah,
in so much
seriously.
of right-wing, far-right propaganda. But I want to talk first about how Trump voters are maybe enjoying the deconstruction of the administrative state and siding with Russia over Europe and Ukraine and watching Elon Musk pretend to save the federal budget while Trump cuts taxes for the rich and raids the Medicaid budget now. Are they loving it? Because Fox News seems to be.
Yeah, Fox has basically downplayed the Russia connection. They just say, oh, well, Trump is bringing peace to Ukraine. He's ending the war. That's how they frame it.
No more deaths.
Yes. And they don't really mention Putin, and they don't really mention Russia. It's just, and they also keep talking about the mineral deal. He's getting this great mineral deal because he's this wonderful negotiator and he can make any deal. And then they present Elon Musk as the savior of the American people and as this selfless, billionaire who just cares so much. they totally, the other phrase that they repeat a lot is, well, he's got so much money, so he doesn't need any more. He doesn't want any more. Which
working
is
for free.
Working for free. They actually say that, working for free. He doesn't sleep. All this stuff. Yeah. Complete fiction.
Because it's important to...
Yeah, holy shit. Millionaire that doesn't want money. That's a particular kind. A rich person doesn't want money. That's a particular kind. There's not too many of them. And they're different from people like Elon Musk. Majorly. The kind of person that's a millionaire or rich that deserves to be ain't gonna be out there flaunting their shit, trying to control shit like that. The good kind of millionaire or rich person is staying the fuck out of shit and trying to enjoy what they have with their life. They're trying to enjoy what they've worked so hard to get. Those people aren't out there fucking, oh, look at me, I've got money. Oh. No. Those people are still driving their old car, and I don't mean a fucking classic hot rod. I mean their everyday driver. Yeah, they might have a nice classic hot rod in the garage. Take out to car shows. They might have a couple of them, who knows. But that's kind of the point, is these people don't flaunt it. These people aren't actively trying to get more money. They're trying to stay the fuck out of shit and enjoy what they got. This kind of rich person does still exist. It's not just a myth. And some of them might be getting pissed off too. Might not. I don't know. That's the thing. When you keep yourself out of the spotlight, nobody knows. If you're not sitting there making a big deal about it, good chance that others don't know. So, keep in mind, those people still exist. And they are not Elon Musk.
Remind people that obviously we live in our own algorithmic bubbles. And it's no fault of anybody that the news that they have access to is bespoke. And so what you're seeing on Fox News is completely different to what somebody else might be watching if they have more progressive values. And so through social media, your algorithm kind of seeks you out and you basically find your tribe. That's kind of how it works. The problem with Fox, though, is that so much of what they're saying are lies because they're effectively state television for the Donald Trump regime. I mean, it's not that different to state television in Russia, is it?
No, I've called it Trump state television because not only do they openly praise him all day long, but after the election, they turned into like, thank you for voting for Trump. Thanks for getting out the vote. This is because of you. I mean, they acted more like a campaign. They don't even remotely pretend that they're a media company anymore. It's just straight up, we couldn't do this without you, the Fox News viewer, for voting for Trump. So get out the vote again. And I'm like, this is, if MSNBC or CNN did even a hint of the stuff that I see on Fox, they would be outraged.
Yeah.
And they'd show those clips over and over again. Like, look at this monster, this mechanism of the Democratic Party. That's exactly what Fox News does. And ironically, this past week, they kept referring to other media as propaganda. They literally use that term. Hannity likes to do that quite a bit. And that's who I'm following. That's who I was following
I've
last
seen
week.
myself.
It was just all this, propaganda, and he calls other media.
Now, I don't watch Fox News. I found out about Fox News stories because I have MAGA family members. Well, I have MAGA family members. I mean, I just got done talking to them. They're not the hardcore going out and trying to start shit MAGA. They just think Trump's good, MAGA. Brainwashed by it. And these are people that will start to see the light before too long. These people I'm not too worried about. I mean, other than their well-being. I'm not worried about them trying to fight for Trump. They do not give enough of a shit about politics. Quite literally, neither one of them have voted in, well, a couple decades from what I've been told. So, it's because they don't believe that the votes matter either. And after everything I've learned, I can't argue with them. Only so many times that you can watch the voting numbers and see the outcomes and not go, okay, we need to look into this. And I did. So did Anthony Davis. There has not been a fair election for some time. And that's due to a few things that have been happening over several decades. That part of it is not due to interference. Trump's first campaign, and since there has been interference by Russia, and this last election, Elon Musk. Yes, having another country spread propaganda for you is influencing the election. Let's just be clear on that. If it was your people here stateside, no, that wouldn't be the same. But having Russia do it, yeah, that's having another country interfere in our election. Sorry. Elon Musk throwing all this money at the election is interfering in the election. Elon Musk taking his bot platform and turning it into a propaganda machine is interfering in the election. Let's be clear about this. There are multiple ways to interfere in an election. And several of them have been being done. had Elon been spreading his own propaganda? Had Elon been running for office? Wouldn't exactly have been an interference. But Elon was running Russian propaganda, was not running for office, was not supposed to be anywhere near sensitive documents and paperwork, because he is a threat to national security. And public safety, public health. Sorry. Elon really is everything that is negative about being somebody who has money. That Elon's the embodiment. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry if you like him. Sorry if you think he's something, but he's a fucking clown. Who is clowning y'all who think he's worth a damn. For real.
State-funded media. So,
I mean,
yeah.
projection is a theme of Trump and his surrogates, and often we can decode what he's saying because he's saying it about himself when he's talking about others. So, hopefully people have worked that out. They've deconstructed the code of
sadly, many people have not. Several people have not. And that's not a good thing. The amount of projection that's coming from, especially Trump, that people are not seeing through is rather sad and disappointing. I would have hoped... Yeah, I should say hope. I honestly originally expected everybody to have some nuanced ideas and understandings of psychology by now. I mean, shouldn't, I guess. Especially considering people mix up reverse psychology for fuck, I lost the train. Projection. For some reason, people mix up projection and reverse psychology. This is something I've noticed. I don't understand. They're rather different. Reverse psychology is telling someone something because you know they'll do the opposite sort of shit. Or telling someone that you know is going to be mischievous and deviant, that a bad guy, someone who's fucked up, is not. Just so that way they don't support the person. I've used reverse psychology on people many times. I actually had a friend that I had to use it to keep him out of trouble. Hence the supporting someone who's actually horrible. I had a buddy who was thinking of supporting a dictator. Don't remember which one it was at the moment. I vaguely remember the propaganda flyer. But I sat there, and knowing this guy was no good, couldn't remember why. I just knew it was. I remembered the name, knew the guy was no good. Knew he was a dictator, and that was about it. And my buddy was wanting to try to support him because of that. I'm going to ask you some reverse psychology on him. Told him he was a good guy, da-da-da-da-da-da, fed kids and all that kind of shit. He instantly went from mischievous to, oh. He came back to me a week later. You lied to me! And I said to him, yes, you're damn right I did. Because who you were trying to support was not good for anybody, including yourself. He was like, yeah, you're right. And I said, I love you, bud, but I'm not going to let you stick your head into a fucking firework factory with flaming hair going. I'm not going to let you go sweet tooth into the firework factory. Sorry. Care about you a little too much for that.
Translating Trump in real time. But a lot of people don't. They take him at his word. And 77 million people that voted for him, I presume most of them are still absolutely thrilled that he got in and that he's doing such great work for the Republic and that, you know, it's going really rather well. In fact, I think he was caught on a hot mic a few days ago asking a journalist to report that what he was doing was really, really good. I mean, that's the level of the propaganda. So maybe we can just talk to those viewers for a moment and voters. How do you think that they're processing this? I mean, do you think they have an inkling that we are currently in a constitutional crisis and potentially on the brink of war? I mean, it is quite that serious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Really
think
is.
they realize it at all. I think the weakness that I'm starting to see just on social media, the cracks that are starting to form, are more about the economy. It's people worried, like, well, why aren't prices going down? And he doesn't seem to be doing anything about prices. It's not just that they're not moving, it's that he hasn't done anything about it. And he's only said, well, I'll impose tariffs. Tariffs would raise prices. So I haven't seen anything internationally, like our foreign policy. I think they're completely in denial. And I think most Fox News viewers just think, well, he's going to bring peace. And we won't have these pesky wars anymore, and Europe can just deal with this themselves. Because they're fed lies all day long. They repeatedly say on Fox that the United States has sent far more money to Ukraine than Europe has, and that's just a blatant lie.
Yeah.
Just a blatant lie.
Yeah, Europe is 300 million, the US is 180 million.
Yes.
300 billion versus 180 billion.
Yes,
There it
it's
is.
not even close.
Yeah.
And they have created this completely fake reality where Ukraine is seen as, somehow taking advantage of the United States and for the United States, and which is absurd because a lot of the money that we have spent on Ukraine has come right back to our economy in the form of building munitions and weapon systems that we've given to Ukraine. And anybody...
Because that was the smart part of the freaking Ukraine aid deal. I've got to give Biden and those who thought about that shit fucking credit. I don't care what MAGA motherfucker wants to sit here and say, that's not America first. Motherfucker, you don't know all the information. We're not giving them straight money. We never did. We're giving them weapons and ammunition. Tanks, jets. HE rounds for the fucking tanks. Which, yeah, Biden bangled that one up a little bit and sent them the wrong fucking ammo. so they're having to use the tanks as if they're fucking artillery guns. But that's coming from our old supply that we needed to refresh anyhow. Guess what? Now we can! And we can make money doing it! Our soldiers get new equipment, our factories get more business, and the country makes money! How is that not putting America first? Jobs, business, products, new gear for our military. That sounds awfully American to me.
Who studies it would know that, but people on Fox don't know that. They just hear this garbage all day long, and it's there've been, like, I've seen some a little bit from, like, Brian Kilmeade, who's very hawkish towards Russia and Ukraine. He wants Ukraine to basically defeat Russia. Hannity was also more hawkish than other people on the network. But even now, they're falling in line. You see a little bit of, well, because I know last week or the week before, it was a radio show, and I don't cover the radio shows, but somebody had called in, Trump had called in on Brian Kilmeade's radio show. And Brian Kilmeade was openly kind of squabbling with him about Ukraine. Saying, well, they didn't start the war, And you can't even say that. You can't even say that. It's like, Trump creates his own reality and promotes it, and Fox spews it out. So that's what's going on right now, and I don't think they have any idea how dangerous things could get very quickly, because they just believe this nonsense that they're fed all day long.
Yeah.
Do the hosts know the truth? Or are they so indoctrinated? Because you mentioned a couple of them have been swaying, now they've fallen in line. But, when I watch Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity, to me, it's as if they're just lying through their teeth about everything. Because they're not stupid people.
Yeah.
But they obviously have a business, and they're very well remunerated, and so consequently they have to do what they do. But is it that they're just simply soulless, and that they really do hate America that much that they're prepared to lie for money?
Of course. I mean, it doesn't.
From CD Keys.
That they really do.
It's not even coming down to a America bit. It's just they want the money. A lot of people really don't get how much money is a motivator for corrupt people. And I'm talking corrupt inside. You can be MAGA and not be corrupt inside. You cannot be one of the people that is currently working with Trump right now and not be corrupt inside. There is a stark difference. To work with him, you have to give up a piece of yourself. To support him, you don't. And that's kind of what gave Hitler such the following. And Twitch is going to add break. Let's let that happen.
Hate America that much that they're prepared to lie for money?
I think Hannity, there's been times, January 6th, after the January 6th pardons, Hannity really didn't talk about them. He talked about Biden's pardons, he complained about Biden's pardons. I actually went back through my transcripts, triple checked that because I was like, why don't I have any clips of Hannity talking about these pardons? Because I think even for Hannity that was too far for Trump to pardon all of those monstrous
1,600
people. Yes, who had beaten cops and were part of hate groups. I think for Hannity that had gone too far because he didn't talk about it. So there are moments, but I do think like Greg Gutfeld will say anything. He will say anything if he thinks he can keep his job. Jesse Waters is just, brain fog all the time. There's nothing going on up there. He will repeat anything. He believes any conspiracy theory. Laura Ingraham, I think, will toe the party line. So she's the smartest one. And she just seems craven to me. When I watch her, I just don't think she cares what she says, as long as she can keep her job and get other parts of her agenda covered, which she would love a theocracy. She would love it if we had, hardly any taxes. She would love it if, we could go back to just ignoring racism. Those are themes I see on her show a lot. And she hates China. She's obsessed with China. And Hannity is just so tight and close with Trump that I think he's completely sold out. And it's reported that he makes $35 million a year. So that's a lot of money to just, toe the line and do whatever you're told and suck it up. And the way he's dealt with it, like I said, is he just talks about things he wants to talk about and avoids topics he doesn't want to. So, for instance, he hasn't talked a lot about Russia or Ukraine. He just talks, this past few weeks, it's all been Doge. It's all Doge. It's just this wonderful man, Elon Musk, who's a genius. And the dual interview with Trump and Elon Musk was very entertaining to watch because Hannity had questions that were 2 minutes long.
Well, that's right. You timed how
I
much
timed him.
in your
Yeah, I
podcast. You timed how much time each of the three got, and you said Hannity had 33% of the time or something.
Yeah, Hannity. I broke it down by minutes, and Trump, because Trump can talk about anything.
Yeah.
You can literally talk water pressure, and you can go for 40 minutes. So that was easy. That Trump dominated. Trump, I think, was 29 minutes or something, and Hannity was 15 minutes and 50 seconds. So it was actually 15 minute 30 seconds, actually. And Elon Musk was around 15 minutes. So it wasn't that much, but it's embarrassing when the person interviewing somebody is talking more than the person who they're supposed to be interviewing. And that was true because Hannity what prompted me to do that is some MAGA person was complaining on Twitter, I can't believe Hannity spent a minute on a question. And I said, oh, you don't know Sean Hannity. Because his questions are like, Donald J. Trump, you are amazing and you are brilliant. And we owe so much to you as a country. And you are going to be the best president ever. And that's before he begins to get close to the question. So he just sets it up and then helps maneuver Trump and how to answer it. And it's just, he's the king of the leading question. It's out of control.
But he did that leading up to the election a lot, didn't he?
Yes,
because Trump didn't know what was going on, really.
Yes.
He was confused, and he was stressed because of the legal cases. And so Hannity was having to ask him leading questions and steer him. And even, I think it was on the subject of, being a dictator for a day or on day one. Didn't Hannity kind of go, well, actually, do you really mean that? Or what you actually mean is that, you're just going to, and it kind of, and in fact, Trump didn't take the bait from what I remember.
Yeah, it was very awkward. I remember that because I think it was in one of the town halls. Hannity did a series. I figured out last year I watched 88 hours of Trump, and that's based on rallies, town halls, interviews, press conferences. It's a lot, and Hannity was a lot of that. He also did interviews with Laura Ingraham, but and a real goofy one he did with Vance and Jesse Waters. But and then he would go on Fox and Friends, of course, all the time, or he'd call in.
That's where he'd call in, and they could.
He calls in. Yeah, and they did have him on the comfy couch once. I call it the comfy couch. It's this circular couch, but they had him on the comfy couch once, where he was sitting in the middle, and it looked very bizarre. But Hannity definitely basically holds Trump's hand, looks at him right in the eye, and just says, "This is what you're going to say." And you can see creative editing. I've seen editing in all of their interviews, which was hilarious that they went after 60 minutes. And the only reason why Fox does not face the same scrutiny is because Fox is cable. And in the United States, cable can do whatever it wants.
Right.
But network television has
Seriously,
to adhere to
dude?
standard and
Get off the
can't
edge of
give
the bed.
candidates free time. And a lot of Americans don't know this. And I'm constantly explaining it to
Go
people
to the
because
back.
they say, why doesn't Fox just lose its license? Because it's obviously
Lay
just
down.
campaigning for people, and it's because Fox is cable. And
Thank
it's
you.
It's all over the air, and so it's
Yeah.
the moment that you are transmitting on a kind of wireless frequency
Yes.
that you are then subject to the requirements of the regulator.
Yes.
Let's talk a bit more about the propaganda, because we've mentioned state television, and it's not just Fox, of course. Fox kind of leads the charge, but there's Newsmax and there's OAN and there's various. I think there's like 7 or 8 now of these far right Trump channels
Yeah.
that are pumping out similar material all the time. And the way I see it is that if people want to kind of fact check or cross check, cross reference, they switch over to Newsmax and they're saying the same thing. They're like, well,
Yeah.
it must be true because they're saying it on Newsmax as well.
Yeah.
Which is barely due diligence, but the effect of this over decades, if you
Can you call that due diligence? Cross-checking with one source that, known or not, is from the same fucking group? I'm sorry, that should be a little research done. If anything, I'd be checking against a non-American source, so that way I know I'm getting some legit information. But maybe I'm weird for that. Maybe I'm just different. But if I'm getting one story from Fox or one of the related networks, I'm cross-checking this with something outside of that network. It's called a media network for a reason, meaning there's more than one. The Midas Touch Network is more than one. You guys are great. What are you doing? Oh. Here. There you go, baby. She's like, oh, thank you, Dad. Okay, because Chi-Chi's right here. And now Dublin's under the blankie. So readjust this a little bit. Okay. Whoop. So, Dublin is right here. That's the movement. Are we feeling a little playful? Oh. Right across keyboard. And actually, she didn't step very hard at all. So I'm kind of surprised. She's usually quite a heavy foot. You can't exactly teach a cat to walk lightly. I could teach a kid, not a cat.
include Rush Limbaugh and that whole kind of talk radio movement, is that people have been indoctrinated and brainwashed, effectively, into thinking that America is something that it isn't, but also that Democrats are something that they are not either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And this contributed to Trump winning the election.
100%. I mean, I have a category. When I watch Fox, I have a spreadsheet, and I keep track of every single minute, and I label every single minute. And a new category that I came up with last year was just called Democrats Are Terrible. And that's when they go on they'll start on a segment, usually start with one Democrat or the whole party, and they'll spend, 7-8 minutes just, oh, look at how horrible they are, they're terrible, they're communists, they're Marxists, they want to overtake the government, redo our economic system. They throw around terms like communism and Marxism like crazy when they clearly don't know what they mean, and we're incredibly capitalist, a very free market-based economy. It doesn't matter to them, they live in their alternate reality where, they act as if, and I've heard them say stuff this absurd, that if Kamala Harris had won, we would have become communist, like overnight. Like somehow the means of production would have been seized by the state and your local Starbucks would be owned by the U.S. federal government. That's what communism actually is.
Young
but I don't
lady,
think their viewers know that.
it was taken
and
away
it's just
for a
big,
reason.
scary word. and they have
Leave it alone.
equated, ironically, communism with totalitarianism and authoritarian government, which makes sense. That's exactly what Trump is becoming. This
No.
And the
authoritarian
irony is
government.
he's siding with Putin,
Yes.
who of course
Yes.
You're being a shit with
that
it.
system in his own country,
Yes.
under the Russian Federation.
We've got another
So
about 30 minutes before you can have them back.
this is the frustration, I guess, for those of us who get it. Is the
You got to be a
contradiction
good girl with
in
your
so much of
toys.
what they
It'll
say.
get taken away for a little bit.
And how
We'll get them time out from
their viewers who are voters are voting against their own best interests, and yet
You're okay.
kind of thinking that they're saving
You're
America
okay.
somehow, even if the cost of food and living goes up. That they've now been told that they are doing their bit for the country by continuing to support this regime. Their bit for the country by continuing to support this
Leave it
regime.
alone, young lady.
Yes, and he
I'll pop your
also,
butt.
one thing that he promotes, and they
I'll
go
do
right
it.
along with it, and it's totally false, is the idea that our oil and gas industry is nationalized, and that when we drill, that money goes straight to our treasury, which is not the case at all.
No.
It's drilled by private companies. They make the profit. We get a small royalty only on oil extracted from public land. Some of that's offshore. 80% of the oil and gas extracted in the United States
don't
comes
know
from
they did
private
that.
lands. So we get a tiny fraction of a tiny
Good
fraction
choice.
of the total
Good your
revenue
choice.
for oil and gas. But he will say things
Look
like,
at the one Chi-Chi
we
gave you.
just need to drill, baby, drill, and we'll be rich beyond our means, and we'll pay off our debt.
Look at the one she
And
gave you.
that's absurd. And he also says things about tariffs, and they don't include any of the context for tariffs, whereas currently tariffs make up 2% of our total revenue. Income tax is about 47%. That varies from year to year. And in order for us to raise tariffs to the level that we would get rid of income tax, we'd basically destroy our economy and cripple the international economy because of how much trade that would be, how much you'd put tariffs on everything. Prices of everything would go up.
Yes.
And your average lower income person in the United States doesn't even pay income tax. So, what are we doing? It's just a big lie. So that's one thing that they promote, and they don't even stop for a second and go, wait a second, that's not how oil and gas works in the United States. BP or ExxonMobil or Shell, they make the money. We don't make the
There's
money.
a reason that Exxon is the second biggest company in the
Yes.
world. For
Yeah.
example.
Yes.
It's all profit driven.
Yes.
And Exxon is a major Trump supporter for those who don't know. If you don't want to support him, do not get your fuel from Exxon.
When Trump does this drill, baby, drill, I mean, part of that is coming from his hatred of climate change and the climate crisis. He's just trying to kind of own the libs on that subject. And I think that goes back to there being that wind turbine in Scotland that he never liked on destroying the view from the golf course.
Yeah.
That he tried to sue and he lost. And so there's that.
Rightfully
which
so.
he calls windmills, of course, much to the annoyance of the Dutch. But I get a feeling that these component parts are ultimately going to hit a wall at some point where things, the quality of life is going to get so bad in the United States that there must come a point, at least I hope so, where Fox viewers and Trump voters, who are one of the same, will start to unravel because they recognize that life was better under Joe Biden and the Democrats, and the
I think-
eggs were cheaper.
I think that's totally what's going to happen. It's hard to know when the tipping point will occur,
Yeah.
but he's doing absolutely nothing to get grocery prices down or prices down in general. And one of the things about oil and gas that they also don't ever mention, I sometimes see somebody kind of hint at it, but there's no incentive for Exxon or BP or Shell or any other oil company to want lower prices.
No.
There's no incentive.
No.
It's traded on the global market. OPEC controls twice as much oil and gas that we do. And OPEC is, of course, a consortium, kind of a cartel of sorts of oil-producing countries. So they want to keep the price as high as they possibly can. And these for-profit companies in the United States want to keep their prices as high as they can. So they're not going to just drill to get the price down just because the president says so. They might get more leases. They might get control of more land. But they're going to drill when it's, beneficial for them. That's it. That's just how it works. And because we don't own that
Cut it out
oil,
back there.
we don't own that gas. It's just not how, we did not nationalize it in the United States. So something that fundamental that people just don't understand, he promotes. So he's not doing anything to get grocery prices down, oil or gas prices down.
Young lady,
He's just not doing
pause.
anything that would get prices down. And his tax cuts are reckless, that he wants to keep on and expand. And that would probably most likely raise the deficit. These Doge cuts are going to cause all kinds of problems. Somebody finally mentioned on PBS NewsHour, they said, well, this is going to show up in the jobs report. When you keep cutting all these jobs, eventually you're going to see it in the economy.
Yep.
So this idea that maybe 6 months from now, maybe a year, when your typical Fox News viewer, your typical MAGA enthusiast, maybe somebody who maybe begrudgingly voted for Trump, I think he's going to lose them first. The people in the middle who go, you know what, eggs are still crazy expensive. I want to go shopping at the grocery store. I run out of money very quickly. My gasoline.
Okay. You want to know why eggs just keep getting more expensive and more expensive? Because when you attempt to fire the CDC and threaten workers at the CDC to the point that they are resigning, you don't have the people that are doing the viral research to try to take care of this fucking avian flu. Or bird flu. That's killing all these chickens in the end. Yeah, technically the farmers are having to put them down. Because the farmers know better. What we need to do, if we want to solve this issue, is pour some money into the CDC and the people that do the research for this shit, so we can get a fucking vaccine out there. Never mind the fact that it's jumped a human and is killing people now. I should say, jump from avian to bovine to human. We have a chance to deal with this one. This isn't like COVID. This isn't an extremely fast-spreading disease. And we still are early enough in its spread to be able to contain and quarantine. No, nobody likes to be quarantined. It's not fun. God damn it, we gotta do what is right for everybody. And if you need to be quarantined, that means it's part of your duty as an American citizen. Just as much as it is to vote. It's your duty to get vaccinations from the diseases that are outbreaking. That is part of your responsibility as an American citizen. It's not some giant fucking setup trying to get you. They don't cause autism. Sorry to tell you, but if you're autistic, you're born this way. I get tired of having to tell people this shit. I get tired of having to get people to realize, okay, these things actually have a way to work around them and deal with them. These things are not complete and utter question marks.
It hasn't moved at all, and they're going to get fed up because they don't care about his lofty, crazy tariff ideas and his Gulf of America or the threats he's done with Canada or Panama. or Greenland. Your average American doesn't care. They just want to live their life, be left alone, and live a decent life. And he's not giving that to them. They're going to turn on him. So it'll be interesting too. I kind of think that it's already starting to happen sooner than I thought. I thought I would have to wait longer to see this, but I saw, like, right after the election, I got a peak in my subscribers. I got a little spike, and I know other people in my line of work who critical Trump did. And then it flatlined in December, which is normal because people care about the holidays. I get that. And then it started to slowly creep back up, and I've had 2 of my best months ever because people are revved up and they want to stop this, and they feel powerless, and so they're turning to Midas Touch, they're turning to Aaron Rupar, they're turning to me, they're turning to you, they're turning to people who are offering a different perspective on this, who are critical of this propaganda machine, and they're looking for answers. And so that, and these town halls where people are showing up and crowding them and screaming at Congress people, that also gives
being arrested by unmarked police or security people with no identification.
Yeah, it is horrible stuff. Oh yeah, that's true. That did happen. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. I think that because every day it's sort of this. For me, I have to kind of fight dread because I'll just open up my phone and just go, oh, what is he doing today?
Yeah.
What happened today?
I think we all do that, and including our viewers and listeners too, because it is very depressing.
Yeah.
Because we're watching the US be deconstructed before our very eyes. And for those of us who love America, and especially for those of us immigrants who came here, that's quite the shift, isn't it? You come here because it is this amazing experiment, and now it's being deconstructed. It's extra frustrating. Could we talk about the other president? You mentioned Doge a couple of times, but maybe we should talk about the guy that people didn't vote for, but seem to have ended up with anyway.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is basically running the government. It seems that way. And during the cabinet meeting, he held court a lot more than Trump did. During the Oval Office kind of press event, he held court standing up, Trump sitting down. A small child was the only thing to come between them. And it was all very weird. But Musk himself is as nuts as Trump. I mean, this is something that people don't really realize. They assume that because he's rich, he must be smart. But he is so unwell, they're both so compromised, that it really is the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. I couldn't do like a psychoanalysis of Elon Musk, but there's some deep-seated problems there with his personality. The bizarre, constantly having children with different women. He's got 4 women now.
That's a eugenics thing, though. That I think that the kind of far-right movement are obsessed with. Yeah.
So creepy, and that he parades around this one little boy, even though he has all these other children. We never see them. And then the joke of him putting the kid on his shoulders, sort of like a human shield. Yeah. Everybody said that, and his just insane ego, which is also as bloated and as delusional as Trump.
Yep.
This idea that he has both of them almost seem to act like they have magical powers, almost, and they both view themselves as smarter than anyone else in the room. And Elon Musk does not come across as very bright to me. He just comes across as somebody who's ruthless.
Yeah.
Who is an opportunist who knew how to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sad thing is most, not all, but most billionaires, it's like they didn't become billionaires because they were bright, necessarily. Some of them, sure, but some of them, they were just cutthroat and ruthless.
Yeah, they shafted people.
Most.
We should remind people that he bought Tesla. He didn't, create Tesla. And this is the thing. It's like he has done these kind of hostile takeovers. And that's how he's been able, with the kind of ruthlessness, to kind of wrap things up. But what you're describing in his personality is narcissism.
Yeah.
Same as Trump. They are both narcissists. We know that Trump is a malignant narcissist because the psychiatrists have told us so, but I haven't yet seen the psychiatrist analyze Elon Musk in any great detail, but I'm sure that they both sing off the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, and it's an odd.
No, not the same one, but closely related. Elon Musk has most certainly got narcissistic personality disorder. What part on the spectrum of narcissism, I'm not completely sure. We don't get to see quite enough of Elon without editing and shit. But so far, I still have to kind of quite agree. No, I don't see an intelligent man. I see a cold-hearted, ruthless man who is not afraid to throw people on the bus. And in that light, he is like Trump.
I don't know how their relationship has lasted this long, because normally narcissists won't put up with that. Too long, they'll stab each other in the throat.
Yep.
I joked watching their interview, and Hannity said, "Oh, you guys are getting along so great. You're like brothers. Look at you two." And then they repeated that on Fox and Friends. "Oh, they get along so great. They're answering each other's sentences." I'm like, no, it was Elon Musk trying to cut Trump off.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. And I said, if you stuck a wood chipper in the room and then took the camera crew out, and somebody just slipped in the wood chipper, like, who would push who in the wood chipper?
Yeah.
It just felt like, I called them dime store Bond villains. That's what they looked like.
Because they clearly hate each other.
Hate each other.
But
It's very
they
true.
need each other, right?
Yeah.
Because Trump needs Elon because Elon spent $270 million getting him elected. And Trump puts wealthy people onto a pedestal because they can fund his criminality, I guess. And Elon needs Trump because Elon wants to take over the world, and being the king of America is the best place to start, and knows that Trump is dumb enough that Elon can be like, well, I've got an idea for... Didn't he say he could fix air traffic control? Trump's like, yeah, go on, you might as well try. You can do, like, backwards rockets. Surely you can do air traffic control. I mean, they talk about these complex systems that have evolved over decades, like there's something to be, like, turned off and swapped out with a laptop.
Hey, if your partner is being secretive with their phone, you need to do this now. Most people are unaware this.
To be, like, turned off.
And what you need to do,
swapped out.
what you need to do now, if your partner's being secretive with their phone, ask them. Ask them what's going on. Gauge your response. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's partners out there that people have that have porn addiction. And you don't hide that kind of shit from your partner. You talk it over, you get to an understanding. There is no reason to have to pull sneaky shit on your partner. If so, you're not doing it right. For real. If you're having to pull sneaky shit on your partner, and I don't mean surprise sneaky, I mean, you know you're doing wrong, sneaky, you're not doing it right.
With a laptop.
Yeah, he has no idea what he's doing. And that's the other thing is I think Trump is sort of exploiting this good cop, bad cop situation with him, where he just makes Musk, or allows, I should say, doesn't make Musk do anything, but he basically allows Musk to run, rampant, and then Trump can say, well, he's a genius, just let him do his thing, he'll figure it out. And then Trump doesn't have to be the bad guy.
He's not a genius.
People. So there's that kind of creepy situation that's going on with the two, where they're both exploiting each other in different ways. But I just, their egos are just so enormous, and I don't know how Trump will handle this. Like, people were like, how are they going to even make it to inauguration? Which people were saying that, and when I watched them in that interview, I just thought, and that other interview where they did in the Oval Office with Trump standing next to the desk with his son, and how small Trump looked.
Yeah.
And just defeated.
Yes.
And here's this idiot who nobody voted for, couldn't run for president because he wasn't born here, who is wearing this ridiculous outfit with a baseball cap, and just, well, blah, 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 blah.
I know. If that's the case, I'll run for president, and I'll sneak Arnie in. I'll sneak Arnold Schwarzenegger in there. I mean, at least that's a Republican I can respect. Arnie may be a conservative, but he's got a head on his shoulders, which is saying something. Especially for an actor after all this time. Yeah, if I was going to take somebody, quote unquote, of money up there with me, it'd be somebody like Arnie. Or Patrick Stewart. Or even, come on, remember his name. I don't want to call him by his Star Trek character name. Oh, I hate it. Either way. Yeah, there is a lot more qualified people that have money to take up there with you than Elon Musk. Like I said, at least Arnold has some experience in governing. At least Arnold's got a head on his shoulders for being a Republican. So, yeah, and if I was going to do something like that, I'd take Arnie up with me. And I'd be working side by side with him. You're like, Arnie, what do you think we can do? Let's brainstorm. And it wouldn't just be Arnold. That would probably be the only real person. Money, of course. I already know Neil would say no. Though I would absolutely love to have him up there so that way he could help me teach people. He could help me figure out how to get the message out. And actually get these people the knowledge and information they need. Like Boo. Get some water. Goofball. No. It's like, not right now. Not after what you pulled last night, dude.
Literally. And Trump's just cowering as this small child's like taunting him. And I thought, now how long can this go on? Because Trump, even though he might feel like he owes this man something, I just can't imagine Trump putting up with this for that much longer. Because
Well, Trump shits on everybody at the end
Yeah.
of the day, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So there's going to be some fallout. And the smartest person in the room that day was the 4-year-old boy.
yes, oh yes,
Good boy.
yes,
But my prediction, because I have talked about this before, is that Trump will do that thing that he's done with Ron DeSantis, where he just doesn't talk to him anymore. So he kind of allows him to, like, he'll allow Musk just to do Doge and do his thing, but he'll have absolutely no contact with him. And I've noticed that Musk is the one that's residing in the White House. Trump is spending most of his time in Florida.
yeah. Which is also disturbing because, I mean, we all know that Trump basically ran for president to stay out of prison.
Right.
And not because he really wants to be president.
Yeah.
And Melania, where's she? I haven't seen her at all.
No.
She
Other
probably has
than
a whole
the-
other family.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, other than her fabulous fashion choice at the, oh my goodness, that inauguration hat. Other than that goofy outfit at the inauguration and scowling the whole time, I mean, she's completely been a non-entity. So, you know, she stands next to him sometimes at events, but she's not really doing anything. And like, I don't think she's there much either. So
she's done. You know, she's just for hire now. So it's like, if you want me to show up at that thing, it's like 10 million.
I know.
And that's kind of
Yeah.
it. And I'll show up dressed
Yeah.
like Gru from Despicable Me, and you'll
Yeah.
have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So how are the Fox viewers and the Trump voters digesting Elon Musk? What is the thought about it? Because, I mean, Tesla stock is tanking at the moment, which is clearly a protest. There has been protests at Tesla showrooms, incidentally. But do people
And it's been
think
full
of
on
him as
demonstrations.
being this amazing guy? I mean, is that, are they buying the propaganda that Fox is peddling?
Yeah, some of them are. I mean, I get comments on social media from them that they believe all of the nonsense, that he is a genius, that he's the one who's actually designing the rockets, he's the one that designed the car, he's the sort of mastermind. And he got all this money because he's just so brilliant, and that we shouldn't question. We should just allow him to do what he needs to do, and that he's no different than any other cabinet member. But other cabinet members have to be approved by the Senate. Most of them do. And, he wasn't approved by anybody. He just, gets in there and just starts taking over the whole government. And it's interesting because my brother is an auditor. That's what he does for a living, and he works for a state government. And he's a CPA. It's not an easy job. It's not something you just walk in and, I'm going to audit these books. You have to, just to become a CPA is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it took my brother years to get to that point. And so that's the other thing, is they act like it's just really easy to find this waste. And they open the books and then, money. When, New York Times did a thorough investigation of what they've found so far that's publicly posted about Doge, they found mistakes all over it. Things that were double, triple counted. He's counting credit instead of the full amount. So that's definitely going on, but I don't think the actual, like your average Fox viewer has figured this out yet. I think some of them aren't happy about the fact that their man isn't the main project. They would rather, I have seen some resentment that Trump is not the main focus, because they didn't really, Musk got added at the end. He was just this weird man would jump and make that goofy thing that he kept doing on stage, and threw a lot of money around. But he was not the man that they fell in love with. The man that they fell in love with is this crazy person named Donald J. Trump, who would talk like a preacher in his speeches, like his rallies. I talked about this before. When he addressed his rallies, he would say things just crazy. Especially if you watched several of them, where he'd go, "I will make all your pain go away. I will take all of your problems and make them go away." And just, that's like a preacher. That's not real. That's not realistic. Nobody can do that. And
But they
so when
think of him as godly, don't they?
They do.
They
They
think
do.
that he is the chosen one. And,
Yes.
and certainly amongst evangelical communities, they've elevated the least religious person on the planet to be
Yes.
the second coming. And then I think when he got shot, he really played on that and said it was God's will that he was still alive, and they bought into that in such a way. In fact, the opening of the RNC conference, where he kind of walked on at that speech to Darth Vader music, and he just stood in like a silhouette for a while.
Yeah.
And people just couldn't believe it. It's like they were literally witnessing the rise of Jesus.
Yeah, on the inauguration day, which I captured the entire thing and went through it was like 5.5 hours. And then I also compared it to PBS's coverage. They interviewed, it wasn't much of the footage, but they had sections where, they had to close it down because the weather was too cold. So instead, they had stuff going on in an arena, Capital One Arena, and they had people lining up for hours in the cold. So I was like, why did we cancel this again? Because now you just have people lining up outside.
They cancelled it because they knew that they wouldn't get the same crew.
And those people that did all the work and saved for tickets and whatnot. They just got screwed. Quite literally left out in the cold. Yeah, many of them were pissed, and I can't blame them. That is definitely a moment that I will not look at them and go, ha ha. No. That's fucked up. That's fucked up, and y'all should be taking note. Y'all supported him, and he fucking did that shit to you. That's not right. I'm not Donald Trump, and I'm glad, because I got honor. I don't care how cold it was. It could have been freezing rain, and I would have found some way to make sure that shit went off, as it was supposed to. I don't care if I was having to sit there and figure out how to fucking do the logistics to set it up. Because honestly, if it was freezing rain outside and I had those people there, you're damn right my ass is putting up a few fucking pop-ups for people to stand under. A few hundred if I can help it. At least. People spend thousands of dollars to get up there for that shit. You gotta be really fucking low on the list to ditch those people. I mean, for real, you have a major lack of honor and integrity to do that to those people. And the people that supported you, that were there for you and helped you get there. So nah, I ain't happy about that, and I ain't mocking Trump supporters that tried to go. That's not going to happen. I have empathy. I feel for them. Because I understand how that would feel. That's some fucked up shit.
Crowd as
Yeah,
Obama
he definitely would.
had and Joe
Yeah.
Biden had, or Joe Biden's was inside, but they didn't want the comparison made again because they knew that it was a problem for Sean Spicer on
Yes.
day one.
And when they interviewed some of these people who were trying to get into Capital One Arena, that's where I saw it. One woman just started crying. Like, she just said, well, tomorrow is going to be a better day because we have Trump as president. And they said, well, what do you think? This is a Fox person. It's a very friendly person interviewing her. It was Griff Jenkins. And he's like, what do you think is going to happen? And she just goes, and she literally said it. And I went, oh my God. I was just like shaking on my end. She just goes, all my problems are going to go away. He's going to make all my pain go away. And I'm like, she's repeating the nonsense that he said on stage. That's how they view him. So some of them do resent Musk a little bit because they're like, who is this guy? Why am I not seeing my guy? Why isn't Trump talking? I don't want to see this guy. And so I have seen some hints of that, and I think that will probably get worse as the longer this stretches on.
Because everything's going to get worse, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
The authoritarianism is only going to get worse.
Yes.
Once Trump gets wind of the fact that the media, are saying it's a terrible thing, he'll then just ramp it up. And Musk obviously.
Good timing on that commercial, right as the string struck the floor.
He'll then just ramp it up. And Musk obviously, he's on prescription ketamine. I mean, that's not going to end well either. So something is going to give. My fear is that it's going to end in violence or something. I mean, this is a recipe for the destruction of an entire nation and potentially the world. I mean, our European allies now have basically been told that they are no longer protected by America. has decided to side with Russia.
Russia.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is unprecedented, and yet people are carrying on going, oh, well, eggs, they're $7, and I'm thinking, well, you don't need to eat eggs. Like, you could literally, just cut eggs out of your diet and you'd still be alive.
Yeah.
But what we're really dealing with is the fall of American democracy, and yet people are still concerned they can't get an omelet.
It's denial. It feels like a person who eloped to a person they didn't know very well, and they're in the first few weeks of the marriage, and they're still like, it's going to be fine. It's fine.
Honeymoon
They saw a
period.
big knife in his back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Denial is very powerful, and I think that there's a large portion of the electorate that is in denial, and I also think that Elon Musk is just not likable. Trump is better at, even though most people with a brain in their head think he's a dangerous sociopath, but to the people he knows how to manipulate, they see him as this benevolent,
If you want it, or you can let me get it, baby.
amazing person,
Can't get me.
and they like him. They genuinely love his personality. Elon Musk is not likable. He's creepy. He's got a weird accent.
I gotta stop right there. They don't like his personality. They like the facade of a personality he puts off. There is a difference there. There is quite the difference there.
Then he is, and Americans are very weird about that. Trust me.
He can't speak in complete sentences.
No, he
It's
can't.
like getting blood out of a stone trying to
Yes.
listen to this guy talk.
His speech patterns are strange. He odd mannerisms, and he's got this bizarre personal life with these children scattered all over the place. And he dresses strange. There's nothing. He doesn't.
He has children all over the place because he was a fuckboy! A rich, no fucking accountability fuckboy. Oh, slash jock.
Come across, if you look at it from a MAGA perspective, they want all American, all of that, and you see this odd foreigner. That's how they would view him, in strange clothes, who speaks strangely, who is just not. He doesn't come across as warm and fuzzy at all. Doesn't come across as kind. Doesn't come across as likable, and he has his fan base, but they don't. The typical person who is obsessed with Elon Musk is obsessed with crypto and playing video games all day long. And I don't mean to disparage video games because my niece loves
Thank
video
you.
games.
But it's definitely two different aisles of governance going.
Yeah.
Because the way I've described it before is that Trump plays in the arena of things that give him pleasure, like plastic straws. We're doing away with plastic straws. That's very much a Trump thing. Or paper straws, sorry, bringing back plastic straws.
Yeah.
The Gulf of Mexico being renamed as Gulf of America, going after Panama and Greenland. These are the things.
Yes, I was waiting to see if he would correct himself there. 100%.
Things that to him are good for the brand. But then the other side, which is the Doge side and the Musk side, is actually far more sinister.
Not yet.
Because USAID, which is kind of where they started with this, and that only represents 0.63% of the federal budget, but it provides a life force for so many countries, and by removing this international development, it's not just aid, it's also development, you are effectively killing millions of people who fall foul of HIV and AIDS and Ebola and drought and famine, and on Thursday the Supreme Court sided with Trump and basically said, yeah, you don't have to come up with the money because he missed the deadline for the legal case, and that now also puts us into a further constitutional crisis. This is This is life or death for other people, and yet Trump and Musk, maybe they relish the death of millions of people. It's like a genocide.
Listen, in 2024, we're not overdrafting no more. If you didn't know, Clio is a cash advance app where you can get up to $250.
Death of millions of people.
To anyone who isn't aware, yeah, it's a fucking game to them. They think they control it all. They think they're the bosses of everything. That's kind of how narcissistic personality disorder goes. Everyone is below them. They are the top dog. If they have to work with somebody, they're stupid. The fact that they have control over other people's lives is a fucking ego booster. They realize that it makes them feel good. Because it makes them feel powerful. And that's what drives an egotist. Once again, an egotist's biggest weakness is the fact that they crave so much power. They crave to be the center of attention. And be able to sway so many people. Honestly, there needs to be an entire educational campaign put out. Fucking commercials, flyers, everything. To help people understand what this shit is. Because even people that don't like Trump don't necessarily get it. It's not a joke. It's not a game. These guys are going to treat it as such. No. Let me pick it up. Thank you. Good girl. And that needs to be realized. They're going to savor and, well, get an ego kick. Nice little ego rub by seeing what they've done. Knowing that they've done this. These are dangerous fucking people. These are quite literally villains of comic book. And you're putting them in power, or have put them in power. And are still supporting them today. I don't know many of you, especially older generation, that would support Kingpin. So I have to ask you, what the fuck is going through your head?
It's like a genocide.
Yeah, and it also it is terrible because a lot of Sudan is a great example of
my
where
fingers.
we were helping the desperately needs the help.
My fingers, baby girl.
Face starvation there.
You're
Right
gonna
now, because
hurt
of an ongoing
Maddie.
civil war that's
You're gonna hurt me.
no end in
Right.
sight was the conflict in Sudan, and it doesn't get as much press
These?
because we're not
Yours are
involved
worse.
in it directly.
Yours are a lot
except when you
worse.
provide aid, and cutting that aid off is going to be devastating, especially for HIV patients all over the world who can't get treatment, and if they can't get treatment, they're going to spread the disease because the treatment prevents. If you're on antiviral medications, you can't. The virus in your body becomes so low that you can't spread it, and so that's why it was so important to keep these people on those medications, which for us is relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things, but for them it's going to be much harder to come up with.
Yeah.
We're also opening the door for China to fill that void all over the world, and they're going to. They're going to exploit that, and Russia might as well.
Yeah.
Because Russia has pulled all kinds of shenanigans in Africa to manipulate people against Ukraine. Because when they couldn't get food from Ukraine, Russia swept in, gave people food, and then started trashing Ukraine. Oh, Ukraine's evil. This is the reason why you can't get your grain or your food's gotten more expensive. It's because of those evil people in Ukraine. And Russia's been doing that for years. They've been manipulating Africa and China as well. China would love to get a foothold everywhere in the world. So by cutting off aid, which a lot of it was just food,
YouTube.
basic necessities for life, that was a form of diplomacy for the United States. And they had a guy on, I don't remember his name, but he appeared on PBS and on Fox. He was this fiery older man who had been the director of USAID under George W. Bush. And he just went off. He's like, I'm a conservative Republican. Trump doesn't understand USAID at all. USAID helps people. It's good. He goes, if he doesn't like these programs, just get new programs. You don't have to wipe the whole thing out. He goes, this is diplomacy. This is good for our country. And it's good for American businesses. Because American businesses work quite a bit with USAID. And
We're sending stuff.
Yeah.
Anything that we send is coming from here.
Yes, and ironically, USAID has been criticized for being too capitalist, too, free market. And for years it has been. And the guy was saying this, and he said, this idea that it's Marxist is complete trash. This idea that it's socialist is complete trash. And basically what they did is they found programs that had existed under Biden, which you could have ended like that the next day and just stuck a new program in there with the same budget if you wanted. And they acted like instead of bringing literally food to starving people, it's, transgender operas in Guatemala or something. And it's not what it really is.
No.
And he said, this guy was so great, he goes, when you have a Republican in office, guess what? USAID gets run by Republicans, and the people
I'm sorry, I don't have one.
day-to-day workers will do whatever they're told. That's how civil service actually works. There's no deep state. That's not how it works. Because you get a good administrator in there, and you can do whatever you want, and they'll work in tandem with the president. He just doesn't understand the program.
But because they created the deep state conspiracy,
Yeah.
they're having to now see that through. But what they're doing is they're firing Republicans from lifelong jobs. So many people that work, let's say arguably half of the people that work for the federal government are Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily.
And so those people, and they're discovering that these jobs are not just in DC. And they didn't realize this in advance, that actually all over the country are these centers where the federal government work and outposts, and consequently there are people now complaining to their Congress people saying, I've lost my job, I voted for Trump, this is not what I was expecting. And I suppose that is an implosion point for this administration.
Yeah, there's farmers who worked with USAID who would basically, any surplus they had would basically be sold to USAID and help starving people. And then there's another program that, must cut abruptly where
Let's be real. This is going to include the farmers that grow the food for our military. Yeah. There is literally no reason for any American, I don't care what kind of American you call yourself, whether you're America or American, there is no reason for any of us to be supporting and letting this guy do what he's doing. He's going against what all of us say we've wanted. In action. In fucking action. He's yelling at you that he's been lying to you. He is sitting here going just like this. There it is. This is Trump.
You lie! You lie! You're lying! Liar! Lies! Beneath filthy earth, boy, lies! He lies! Lies! I was lying!
Do you like that one? Mm-hmm. Do you like the Invader Zim? We need to try to find some Invader Zim cartoons for you. Quite literally, that scene, that little blurb is perfect. Because the whole point of it was Zim is lying the whole time. About saying somebody else is lying, which... Guess what's been happening? I feel bad to relate Zim, because I feel like that's a major insult to Zim. For many fucking reasons. But when Zim's got it spot on... As character, Zim had his own issues, but not in the same way Trump and Elon do. The whole point of the Invader Zim cartoon is the fact that Zim has a heart and he has to figure that shit out. Let's just be real. And it's done in a bit more gritty, realistic way compared to several others. But, yeah, fucking... This ain't what any of us want. This ain't what you guys want. This ain't what we wanted. He lied to you to get what he wanted. And said, fuck you along the way. And I hate to be the guy to say this. But he's laughing at you. He's not just laughing at you, he's laughing at your pain and your misery and your sorrow that is being brought of all his actions. Price of your eggs? Yeah, he's laughing about that shit. As he killed the freaking department of the government that would find you a cure for that shit and bring your egg prices back down. When he very easily has access to the tools to do the job and just needs to get together with Congress and get the bill passed to fund research for this. But no, he's completely ignored it. And now a flat of fucking 60 eggs is $46? Holy shit. 46 bucks. I can get some pretty good, a couple of pretty good carts for that price. Yeah, y'all need to come up and see this shit. From one American to another. Y'all need to see how much you guys are being fucked. For the party who don't tread on me, you're sure letting him walk all the fuck over me. And you're smiling at him with that fangy grin going, "Thank you, sir." I used to hold you folks in a little bit higher regard, but, oh, how you've fallen.
Had gotten equipment for green energy to sort of, reduce their need of fossil fuels, and they were like halfway through the program. So they had bought all this equipment, they were being reimbursed by the feds. Now the feds cut it off. And these farmers are like, I have $50,000 I owe on this stuff, and no one's going to help me out, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Meanwhile, Trump loves the farmers,
Yeah.
you've been told.
He claims he loves the farmers. And then CDC has a huge office in Atlanta, and all these people are losing their jobs, and, in suburban Atlanta, and you would think in a purple state that's, barely went for Trump in the last election, went for Biden in the election before, that these cuts would affect it so negatively, but it did. And then you have, just like any other type of community, if it's maybe your job, you still have your job, but your friend lost their job, your neighbor lost their job, that's going to start turning people because they're going to, what's going on?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it always is the economy that people.
One of those, it's starting to get close to home. And that sucks. Straight up, that fucking sucks. And I feel sorry for everybody. And I don't mean that as in pity. I mean that as in I feel your pain. For anybody who is realizing that they're not getting what they were wanting. Anyone who's coming to light about this scenario, I'm sorry. I feel for you. It's not easy shit.
People's vote goes for first in this country. Just always is.
Yeah.
And part of that is because wages never went up in line with inflation, and people need to be able to support their families. So it's only natural, but that's ultimately that kind of hot button issue. And we have to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk about immigration. Laura Ingram went to Guantanamo Bay. I'm sure you've got plenty to say about that. We'll do that next here on the Weekend Show.
And you two put that ad right in the right place. So, got to turn down. I'm going to be continuing to watch and listen to make sure that I can get back up for you guys at the right time. Yeah, this shit's no joke. What? What, boo? You want some water? Get some water. Dude, you've already spite pottied. Oh, it is about time. Hold on, Boo. Give me a few minutes. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down, Boo. Good boy.
With Shopify, your first sale is closer than before. Established in 2025, has a nice ring to it. Sign up for your $1 trial period at shopify.com/weekend. All lowercase. Shopify.com/weekend. Start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/weekend. Back on the Weekend Show with Juliet Jeske from Decoding Fox News.
Here in a few minutes, I will have to pause.
I watched on Fox Laura Ingraham doing this outside broadcast. She went to Guantanamo Bay with Pete Hegseth, former Fox News host who is now the Secretary of Defense, and they were getting very excited watching these illegals, as they refer to them so offensively, in chains being walked off of a military transport aircraft. I mean, this was a vast aircraft, cost millions, I'm sure, and there was only 8 or 9 of these prisoners on it. And now we're seeing that some of these people that have been held at Guantanamo are now suing the government over their treatment, and we're also discovering, I think the Miami Herald did a story, that some of the things that people were being picked up for and effectively taken to Guantanamo was like biking on the wrong side of the road,
You're
crossing
okay.
the Rio Grande on foot, shoplifting at Target. And these are the arrest records
You're
for some
okay.
of the 178 Venezuelan migrants who were detained in Guantanamo, much to the celebration of Laura Ingraham. I mean, this is the Nazification of the immigration story here in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, it's
How have you been reading?
It's the cruelty is the point, is definitely everything. It's absurd. Jessica Tarloff put it perfectly when they kept saying 30,000, we're going to send 30,000 people to Guantanamo, and she just blatantly just said, well, we've never had more than 700 people there, so I don't know how we're going to get to 700 to 30,000, but okay. And what's also ironic is that every other president has tried to get that shut down.
Yeah.
Pretty much after 9/11. They realized this is really expensive, and we don't really, it's caused all kinds of legal problems with having
Well, it was a
people there.
facility for torture. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
that in
Yeah.
itself
Yeah.
doesn't sit pretty with human rights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of bad things have gone down there, and it's just legally, it's a huge.
Alright, I'm going to take a small break and take Loki out and then Chi-Chi. So I'm going to mute my mic. Alright, I'm back. And my back hurts.
Mess, which is why the cases against the men that they did have in prison there that were related to 9/11 have taken so long. Is part of the reason is because legally it's in a very kind of gray area. It was just a terrible idea. They didn't want to have them on American soils, which is why they used this goofy Guantanamo Bay situation, where they were like, well, we'll use this land and it's technically not American soil, but yada yada. And it's a bad idea. And they're gleeful about punishing undocumented immigrants because it's cruelty is the point. They get off on, it's their fuel, it's their drive, and I think it's what like the die-hard MAGA people want to see. And when they get polled, the die-hard MAGA people, that's what gets them the most worked up. They view immigrants, the other, as evil, as bad, as toxic as poison, as destroying this country, and they act as if all we have to do to get rid of crime is eliminate migrants, and we won't have any crime. And all we have to do to get rid of all the bad things in our economy is just get rid of these migrants, and then everything will be rosy and everything will be great. And Laura Ingraham in general has a very sadistic quality to her. She, just the way she speaks, there's a cruelty to her tone and the way she talks down to people and talks of people, very dehumanizing. She's been doing that for years, but there's this almost gleeful. It's like a I hate to call it. I've called her a Disney villainess before, only without the glamour, because that's what she reminds me of. Somebody who just, like, as they're standing over their cauldron and they're looking down into the cauldron and they're seeing people suffering, they're laughing. And that's her energy, and that's been her energy for years. And I think that's the point. They want to see them in chains. They want to see them at Guantanamo. They want to see them suffering, which is really strange. I mean, obviously there have been some cases of undocumented immigrants committing crime, and they've exploited that and blown them up and like, look at these horrible people. But the vast majority of these people aren't committing crimes. They're just poor people looking for work, or they're fleeing a terrible situation in their home country. And you know, they'll find these
Springs
exceptions.
Nursery. Hi, Justin. So you have 1 cat and 2 dogs.
I have Chi-Chi for the day. I should have her the next 2 days as well. As far as the dogs go, I'm technically dog sitting. Loki, big white fluff ball, is Dad's pup, and Chi-Chi's Mom's. Because of the situation at hand, I'm kind of the caretaker. Well, not kind of. I'm the caretaker. In technicality, both of them belong to my youngest brother. If you want to go by paperwork. So, to get around some of the issues at play, I am here taking care of the pups. Chi-Chi's been spending a lot of time with Mom, which is a bit risky for Mom, but the two of them can't be without each other for too long, honestly. This one stops eating.
YouTube. Steph Springs Nursery. What are you drinking, Justin?
Coffee. Literally, coffee. Still in the morning news report, still drinking coffee. Well, shit, I'll drink coffee all day long, but that's beside the point. It's been quite the morning. I had to start late because got notice I was receiving this one. Yeah. But she very much gets a little mopey not having Mom around. Loki, are you on the edge of the bed? Yes, you are. Are you supposed to be on the edge of the bed panting, or are you supposed to be in the back panting? I can't remember. Move to the back, boo. Or come get some water. That's okay too. Come get some water, buddy.
YouTube. Steph Springs Nursery. I
It's
drink
water.
coffee with a straw because I need the energy, but I can't stand the taste. I started drinking coffee at 33 years old because my daughter was hyper.
Oh no.
YouTube. Steph Springs Nursery. I have to go. I'll check you later. Bye.
Alright, later, Stephs. That's not necessarily the most fun way to have to do that.
Well, they're all criminals, and they
You're
use
okay.
stats that are completely false. Trump, something he kept saying during the campaign that was driving me
Drink,
batty, is he kept
You're not
changing the
getting drunk for
number
drinking. Drink.
of undocumented immigrants who'd
Get
entered
your
the
water.
country under Biden. And he got as high as 21 million, which is a completely made-up fiction. I mean, it's total fiction. Nobody else has said that except for him. And even on Fox, they don't say that. And sometimes he would change the number 3 times in one speech. He'd start at like 19 million, go to 20, then he'd say 21
But
million.
they almost know now that the truth is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I think Trump
Don't
worked that
plan.
out in the election campaign. Is that because there is no journalistic
What are you going to do when
pushback
you're
in
trying to
this
get you?
and there,
Monster.
there is a complete void when it comes to being held to account, even by the opposition party, which doesn't really operate as an opposition, as I know politics from the UK, is that you can say anything, and anything goes. And once you know that lying is legal, and making up stats and numbers just plays well, then why would you stop?
I remember back in the day, it wasn't as bad. Trump has changed everything. Growing up during Reagan, there's definitely things that got exaggerated, and there's grandiose speech and whatever, and he weirdly weaseled out of Iran-Contra, which still baffles my mind. I was a kid during that time, and I was just kind of like, I don't really understand what this scandal is. And as an adult, I was like, I can't believe he got away with this. He just weaseled his way out of it.
Well, he was a good actor. I mean, I suppose that's
sure.
kind of how it played out with him.
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad until Trump, until we get this lunatic who's, a sociopath. I know George Conway calls him a sociopath all the time, and I would agree with him on that. With severe personality problems, narcissistic personality disorder, I would definitely say he has malignant narcissism. And he just makes up his own reality, and he does it so bombastically and so aggressively that people just give up, and they just, okay, that's what we're doing now. And even when people try to push back, the lie machine just gets on overdrive, and it becomes this echo chamber of just this toxic, the kind of false narrative, and that's what gets promoted. And he just declares something, and there it is. It does kind of remind me of, kind of the Emperor's,
Close.
new clothes or whatever
Mhm.
that tale is called, the Emperor's new clothes, where somebody's walking around naked, and because he's the Emperor, nobody will say anything like, "Hey, you're naked."
That played out in the horrific cabinet meeting on Wednesday, which was again a press thing, and the select press were invited, and someone did say to Elon Musk, how do you handle the fact that some of the cabinet are not in agreement with what you're doing? And Trump,
I've been yearning for this moment.
some of the cabinet are not in agreement with what you're doing. And Trump took that question, which wasn't for him, and as an authoritarian, he turned it into a joke sequence. Oh, well, he doesn't know who thinks that, do they? There's no one here that thinks that, do you? Putting this kind of blackmail upon people.
Thank you for calling
the
out.
authoritarian's playbook, page 1. But, the coverage didn't mention the fact that he was trying to rewrite the narrative. And we know that he's already barred a whole bunch of journalists. And from that event, Reuters banned the Associated Press. And I think a German newspaper was banned. And this is how it's going to play out now. Whenever a question gets asked that he doesn't like, then that news organisation will no longer have any access.
Yeah, and another thing that was very odd, very similar, was when Emmanuel Macron of France corrected Trump
Yes.
in the White House, Trump had said something about Ukraine, and
It's the money being a loan, and you said that Europe gets its money back, whereas we have to give the money.
yes, that's right. And he actually touched Trump. He
Yes.
physically touched him and
That's right.
corrected him.
Gave him some arm
Yes.
treatment, didn't he? Yeah.
And the way Fox handled that, which was interesting, is they showed clips of Macron next to Trump, and they just said, "Look at how handsy he is with Trump. He keeps. I'm going to make a video out of it. I just haven't had time yet because I have to kind of find the full clip and figure out how to cram it into 2 minutes." But they had reduced it to Emmanuel Macron was just handsy because he was a French guy. And I was like, this is appalling. And they didn't mention that he had corrected him. They just said, see how many times he's touching him? Look at him, he's touching him again.
Yeah.
And that was on the 5, and they were sort of laughing about it. And I'm like, wow, that's some spin there
Yeah.
of how they just changed what happened. And that was I was like, wow, this is next level. We are in 1984. This is happening. It's just they just make up what they want to make up, and I just went, that's a creative twist there.
Yeah.
It's just a handsy French guy. This French people like to touch.
Kissing him on both cheeks.
Yeah. That's how they played it off.
We're also, though, in 1934, and the serious story here, because I find myself laughing when I'm making videos, and it's a nervous laughter.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying anything, but I don't really know. My body doesn't really know how else to respond to such shocking news half the time. So it does kind of end up being a nervous and embarrassing laugh.
Oh, I'm gonna have to be right back. Oh. Actually, I'll be leaving this unmuted, so that way I can hear a big white furry butt in the butt back and starts being breath. So I shall return. Sorry. Oh, what time is it? Shit. It's not even 12:30. I'm gonna have to do something. I really don't know what fucking do. I'll try. See if I can get a chance to first. Yeah, no, as I figured, they're just getting started. Which I get it. They gotta have time to clean bathrooms. I don't know what you're dancing about, little girl. The only one that'd be going out this door anytime soon is going to be me. You are just out, so stop it. Literally just out. So I don't want to hear it, young lady. Freaking huh. Yeah, no, they're just getting started, so I don't have the ability to do it. But no. Alright, I'm gonna leave it alone. If you can't listen, you're just gonna claw me up. Daddy doesn't want to be clawed up, girl. Yeah, I was gonna get it out from under the shoes so you could play with it.
But, with people like Pete Hegseth, with his, far-right Christian nationalist tattoos being the Secretary of Defense, they fired all the lawyers that work at the Secretary of Defense, and that, some people are suggesting is because they are preparing to do things that would be considered illegal and bringing in people who are very much on side. I think it was Hegseth who said that we don't want any roadblocks going forward. I mean, that has made Europe very nervous, in addition to the speech that Hegseth made at the NATO summit, where he basically said that America would not be protecting Europe anymore and was effectively siding with Russia. And then we had J.D. Vance a few days later, or the next day, make his speech at the Munich Security Conference and say the same thing. That, I'm sorry about all that stuff that happened in the olden days, but we're back. And what I got from that is not Nazism. And it's only now that journalists are starting to use that word, but there is a common theme that I'm seeing, which is white supremacy, this kind of pure American blood, the eugenics things connected as well, and the desire to, referring to humans, people of colour as the other. That really just ricochets.
And the disabled.
Break back to the Hitler's early years before the war started in 1939. Is that where this is headed?
I don't know. I'm similar in that I have developed a gallows humor about all of it, in that I will swing from complete dread of, I don't know how I can even watch this crap anymore, into I'm just laughing at them, maniacally laughing at them, how blatant it is, how just they don't even try to cover it up anymore. And so I have a similar weird way of handling this darkness. I fear for a number of groups.
Should you build a custom PC or buy one that's pre-built? If you want a powerhouse of a PC but don't know how to build one, then this could be
this darkness. I fear for a number of groups. I fear that you're going to have violence just spontaneously break out in the country against brown people, basically. Because we've had incidents of that happening before, smaller, kind of isolated incidents, but I could see that happening again and getting worse. Or, these Guantanamo, if they do really expand that and start putting thousands of people.
They want to build camps, right?
Yeah,
They want to build
camps.
internment camps.
What is that going to turn into? You're going to start with internment camps, or will it escalate? And then Europe, I'm terrified for, because nobody should trust Putin. And even if he says, "Oh, I'm going to stop, and you can get your minerals out of Ukraine and keep your security forces," who in their right mind thinks he's going to really stop? I mean, he's not.
Well, he'd probably re-invade Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's what people aren't yet saying.
All right.
But as I see it,
Okay.
the Trump will do this deal that the Americans will think that they've won because they get mineral wealth, and then Zelensky has to step down as part of the deal, and then Putin just re-invades Ukraine, and by this time, because there's no security guarantees, Trump is out of the picture.
Yeah, it scares the crap out of me, and I worry for Poland, I worry for the Baltic states, I worry for Moldova, the non-NATO states in the Balkans. All of that, the entire area, I'm terrified for, because how much fight does NATO have now if we're not in it? And even though we technically still are, but no, we've sort of...
It's done, effectively.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, and it's terrifying to me, and what's scary is that, because Trump thinks like such a child views the world, as like, I'm bigger and you're all smaller and I don't need you. He doesn't seem to understand that, like, if war escalates in Europe, it will hurt us.
Yeah.
I mean, even from a purely selfish point of view, everything's connected. We don't win if Europe starts killing each other again.
No.
And even the idea, and this is something I was thinking of today when I was rewatching some stuff from last week, is this idea of well, we have to get all these European countries to raise their military spending. And I thought, okay, so there was like hundreds of years where Europeans killed each other, like repeatedly over and over and over again. The same stupid patches. Belgium was formed partly to stop Germany from France constantly fighting. England and France constantly fought each other. Italy couldn't even get it together. They were fighting each other within Italy. Spain, same thing. And Iberian Peninsula. That's why DNA from that area would be labeled as Iberian Peninsula, because it's all these different groups killing each other. That's the European history. And I don't know why...
Germany especially.
Yeah, Germany, of course. I mean, without saying, I should have mentioned that first. But Germany, yes, Germany was a huge problem in the 20th century, because they weren't the only reason behind World War I. They're one of many, but World War II definitely. And this idea that we should get them to build up their arms, to me seems like totally the wrong direction. Because, again, the history of Europe, and, now because of the EU and because of a number of different things, we've had a long-lasting peace there for decades, but will we forever? Because now that it's starting to crumble, and, because you can have a few of these states break off and side with Russia, which we're already seeing, and then what? Then especially countries like the countries that scare me, that I'm worried for the most, are Poland and the Baltics, because they're right there, and Russia has been terrible to that entire region.
To that note, I've talked to a few people from Poland and Sweden who are pretty scared they're next. You know what? I can't fucking blame them. Putin's saying he wants to go back to at least pre-World War II times, if not World War I, territory-wise. That puts these countries at risk of being invaded by Russia. Let's be real.
For hundreds of years. I mean, if you go back far enough, Russia just loves pouncing on its neighbors, dominating its neighbors, and being terrible to Poland, being terrible to the Baltics. Poor little Baltics. They're these tiny little countries. They just want to be left alone.
This is Putin's plan. He always said that wants to see the USSR back again. Like that is his plan. And so obviously all of these countries form part of that. And Ukraine is really just the first step towards his grand plan. And he's managed to convince Donald Trump that he's the goodie and not the baddie. And so now we have all of these Fox viewers and Trump voters literally saying out loud, well, why is Putin such a bad guy anyway? We had Tucker Carlson going to Russia twice and making these videos showing train stations and grocery stores and interviewing the Russian president. And see, he's not such a bad guy after all. And look at these beautiful trains that they have here. I mean, why wouldn't we want to be like this?
Which is ironic because the trains were built by communists. The train that he kept bragging about. That I've been to the Soviet Union, so I get very worked up about this. And I've been in that metro. And I went to the Soviet Union when I was in high school. And as a student. And the metro in Moscow is stunning. They have chandeliers. It is nothing in the United States looks even close to this. It's just a jewel. And it was built as part of communist propaganda. They were trying to show the rest of the world our system is better. You look down on us, you call us garbage, and look at what we just created. And so for Carlson, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was like jumping out of my skin watching that. I was like, oh my God, it's a communist jewel that you're celebrating. That you're celebrating. But when he was down there bragging about the metro and how beautiful it was like it was built. Look up when it was built and look up who built it, you idiot. And that was the thing about the Soviet Union is you would see something like the metro that would look like a piece of art, and then their flats would be would look like a housing project, only not nearly as nice as our housing projects. So that was. But
that's the irony of all of it, isn't it? That they claim Democrats are communists, and yet they're now siding with Putin. And so the irony obviously is lost on most people. And so where do we go from here?
Well, from my understanding, a lot of people don't realize that Putin's still a communist. They're not realizing Putin says he wants to get back to the USSR. Or whatever the abbreviation was. That was a communist regime. That would mean embracing the communism again. Which would mean that the people of the land are going to suffer.
Because my concern is that, as I said earlier, Trump is only going to become more emboldened as an authoritarian. He knows that this stuff is working. He knows that people are scared. He wants to put fear into people. But he also wants to be respected. He wants to be on Mount Rushmore. He wants to be now talking about a bill to put literally on a bill on
If I ever become in some kind of political power, do not put me on Mount Rushmore. Do not put me on a dollar bill. Any flavor, please do not put me on money. Don't put my image out there like that. I don't want to be like that. I would rather be the one that's just talked about.
Managed to have Trump's face on cash.
Oh my God.
In a good way, of course.
Gold card, this golden visa. Rebrand is actually an old policy that he wants to rebrand a $5 million. Anybody can come in. Russian oligarchs. He was actually asked this in the Oval Office. Well, could a Russian oligarch buy this?
Sure, I know many good Russian oligarchs.
People, I've met some, and some are very nice. So there's no hiding now which side America is on. Not Americans, but American leadership is on. And they're never going to turn back from this. And meanwhile, Democrats really don't have a voice. They don't have a leader. They don't have any authority in either house or even in the courts. So many of the courts now have been MAGA-fied, and the Supreme Court certainly has. So do we just sit by and watch this happen? I mean, some Democratic strategists are saying just wait for it all to implode and then step in. Do you feel the same?
I
No.
don't feel the same. I think what Democrats should be doing is going for low-hanging fruit. We're not going to be able to get him down. What I saw in those town halls, and I looked up a bunch of them, when I featured just 3 of them in my podcast. They could have done a lot more. When I was just trying to show a flavor, I kind of got the best audio from the ones that I looked up. We need that in every single district. What Democrats need to do is they need to get out and they need to be vocal and they need to show up and they need to flood every single town hall all over this country. Democrat or Republican, I don't care. You show up and you start screaming and you start screaming that you want change. If you get these people in purple districts, if you get people in areas where they might lose their seat, put the fear of God into them that they will lose their seat and give them hell. I am we need to be, because we're not going to be able to get the MAGA converted away from this cult, because that's what we're dealing with. We're not going to be able to pull Trump through legal means or everything we've tried so far. But we can get those Republicans, especially the Congress people who have to run every 2 years, who are very vulnerable, and you just make their life hell. And I mean, just show up at every single thing they do. Show up at every single public event, show up at every single town hall, and don't shut up. Because that was effective. And they can say on Fox, oh...
Now let's be clear. Do not take a tip from MAGA. Don't go stand outside their house. As much as you're pissed off and whatnot, have a little bit of respect. Just a little. My fingers are still together, just that little. But if you know they're going to a restaurant out with their family, yeah, fucking go and protest. If they're going to make your life a living hell, turnabout's fair play, I believe is the rule that's been said.
These are just Democrats and they're organized and well, who cares? Yeah, we're showing up. Because my thing is, well...
Don't know if you need Robitussin for your cough, Advil for your aches, or Theraflu for, well, all the things.
My thing is, well, that's a weak argument to say, well, these are just Democrats showing up at town halls. Well, yeah, because Democrats live all over the country, including red districts. And if the Republicans actually cared about this, they would be there. And they'd be yelling back. But they weren't, because there weren't anybody there. The only people who showed up were Democrats. So that said a lot to me. I'm like, that, to me, is the key. That's the only way we're going to get through this, is we have to fight. I kind of see what they say by, letting it implode, but we have to fight. And I also think that it will help the morale of the other side, of the people who are becoming disillusioned, to give them some place to go to kind of let this out. And I also think one of the things Democrats need to do, huge, is as people start to break from this madness, if we get people who get disillusioned by MAGA or get disillusioned by Trump, welcome them in. Don't become judgmental and, oh, you're not this or you're not that or you're from the South. Or you're,
Britain's okay.
Just shut up. I mean, I'm from technically the South. I mean, Missouri's kind of, I haven't lived there for ages.
Close
but
enough.
Yeah, it's close enough.
But I
It's sort
don't
of
think Democrats are the types, and this is a massive generalization, obviously, but it doesn't go both ways. So whereas Republicans hate Democrats, Democrats don't hate Republicans. They feel sorry for them.
Yeah,
and,
I don't.
And invariably they want to, help bring them over to the good side of the force.
Yeah.
There was a story out on Thursday saying that Republicans on Capitol Hill are shying away from criticizing Trump's policies over fear for their physical safety and for that of their families. It was Eric Swalwell from California that said that they're terrified of crossing Trump, not only because of the negative impact on their political careers, but also from anxiety that it might provoke physical threats that could cause personal upheaval and require them to hire round-the-clock security as protection. I mean, that really now is the stuff of Russia. This kind of fear of being offed or fear of being attacked by the henchmen of the leadership. And,
Yeah.
You know, Trump pardoning 1,600 people, he is effectively creating his own militia.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
wants
groundspeaks.
people to protect him, doesn't he?
Yeah, it does feel it's a very Nazi echo too, because when the Nazis first seized power, there was the Night of the Long Knives, and they went around and they just killed people who were their opposition, including other Nazis,
Yeah.
Nazis who weren't pure enough. They just went like door to door in some cases. They accidentally killed one person. He had the same name as somebody else. They had to pay reparations. It's like one of those weird wrinkles to that story. But the first group they targeted were the socialists and communists in Germany, and they put them in camps before they were death camps. They rounded them up and put them in camps and beat them up and killed them, and because they thought, well, we have to get rid of our opposition first. And this idea that people are too scared to speak out in their own, even though they're elected officials, because they're worried that a MAGA person will show up and, you know, throw a pipe bomb into the meeting hall or whatever,
Yeah.
is very, very similar to what happened in Nazi Germany as the Nazis were gaining power. So that is scary, and it freaks me out all the time as somebody who's read a lot about extremism and Nazis and the whole pattern of that. It scares the heck out of me. But I think too, that's why I think,
Come on.
you know, don't obey in advance. Don't lay down your sword. Don't give up. It's a very, very dark time, but I think giving up would be
Come on, it's okay.
compounding it would make it worse.
Okay.
And think about how many Germans didn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know, who didn't agree, but they didn't say anything. You know, I'm slightly obsessed with the White Rose, which you can't see it, but the screen behind you, this little window that I'm talking to, and on the desktop on my computer is the White Rose Memorial in Munich, which is pamphlets that the German resistance was passing out at a university, and they got caught. After, this was like their 5th time, and they got caught. They were young people, and they were executed by Germany. And now there's schools named after them, and they're considered heroes in Germany. But that defiance, I mean, I don't want anybody getting killed, I don't want anybody getting hurt, but that defiance in the face of this evil that we're dealing with is needed. We cannot give in. We cannot give up, because it will just, like, the idea of, like, the Panzers, the fast-moving tanks that the Nazis used, would come in and just scare the hell out of everybody. At the beginning, when they started invading other countries in Europe, they came in with these crazy tanks that were faster than
Well,
anybody.
it'll be Cybertrucks this time.
Yes, it'll be Cybertrucks. But this idea of, if you just lay down your arms, and I'm not advocating for violence. I mean that proverbially.
I got it cheaper from CD keys.
I mean that proverbially. Your arms, your voice. If you just give up your voice, if you stop fighting back, I think just speed it up. I cannot disagree more with people who say just let it happen, because I just think no. Because if you're being physically attacked, I mean, because I also think there's a psychological element to it. And if people who don't like Trump, who don't like what's happening now, but aren't political, they're not Democrats, they've never identified as a Democrat, if they see the Democrats lying down, you know,
They'll take advantage.
Yeah, and they don't. There's no. You've got to inspire hope in people. You've got to have people.
But maybe
give them an
leadership is
alternative.
the issue, and that's obviously a big subject we don't really have time for. But I'm hoping that somebody or some people will step up and lead the charge. You know, I'd even take Kamala Harris at this point. You know, like something or some shift, because you know everything I've read about how Germany kind of gave over to the Nazi Party. You know, I mean, a lot of it started with inflation.
Yeah.
This is how Hitler, who was the Chancellor, I mean, this is how he was able to kind of convince people. Again, the same here, you know, starts with finances. But I always struggle to really have empathy for how a country could be turned so quickly, and people could be turned so quickly into this darkness. For everything I've read, I just don't get it. And yet here we are, 2025, in America, land of the free, and I can feel it. Like, I really get a sense of what was happening back in Germany during that period before the war, because it started 15 years before the war. in a way that it has direct parallels with what we're seeing here in the US.
Yeah, it's very scary. And I think in this country, it's definitely, undocumented migrants are a number one target. But I also worry for the Jewish community because they get blamed for everything anyway. And because anti-Semitism didn't go anywhere. And some of the stuff Trump says about Gaza scares me, not at all, because I worry about the people in Gaza. They shouldn't be kicked out of their home like that. And you can't just move 2 million people.
He doesn't understand about territory, does he? He doesn't
understand
that kind of fundamental. He sees it. He said, "Well, it's just derelict, so therefore it has no value because he sees it as a real estate deal."
Yeah,
it's that concept that people could be attached to the land.
Yeah, they won't. They're not going to move. You're going to have to physically remove them, and that's going to be an absolute horror show.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that won't happen. And then at the same time, I think in this country, and I said this, and this scares me. I live right next to a huge Jewish community. I love my neighbors. And the idea that if any American blood is shed in Israel, the backlash against my neighbors, I'm terrified.
Seriously.
And they have a myriad of different opinions about Israel. Most American Jews do. It's like all over the map. You have people who, which is normal, which is how it should be, because they're American and they're allowed to have an opinion. They're not a hive mind, of course. People have different opinions about it. And to blame people for something that another government is doing is crazy, totally absurd. And there's, again, like, anti-Semitism doesn't need any help. It's always been there, and it's just going to get worse. And so, because all the conspiracy theories are rooted in it, and the far right is rooted in it, and that's ironic because Fox tries to pretend that it's super pro-Israel, and yet it does, promotes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and does things that I think are hideous. And like even last year, this is so small, but it was something that it just made me very, very, very angry. PBS, because I always compare Fox to PBS, and PBS they have far fewer hours because they only do 5 a week for PBS, and Fox it will vary anywhere from 15 to 40. It's that bad some weeks. PBS had more segments that featured the families of the hostages than Fox did. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And PBS is neutral, straight down the middle. They don't take a stand on it. They try to show both sides of it.
Yeah.
People can criticize them if they like about that. It's a very divisive conflict, and I understand that. But the fact that PBS, these people more and try to show them as human beings, and they do that with both sides. They try to show them as human beings. And Fox didn't even bother with the hostage. I'm just like, oh my goodness! And they don't show the anti-Bibi protests ever on Fox. They'll minimize them. They act like Bibi's beloved, and
but that is Israel's biggest problem. Is that it's similar to the Trump problem. Is that you've got somebody in the leadership who does not represent the people, who is also up for corruption charges, doesn't want to go to prison, and is literally going to do anything to kind of stay in power. And this just goes back to what you said at the beginning, that Trump had to win this election because he didn't want to go to prison. Because all of those cases were, there was just so much evidence against him that he really, he would not have been a free man right now if he hadn't have got the help that he did to win. We have to finish, but I'm so grateful to you, not just for this conversation, but for the effort that you put into watching Fox and exposing the propaganda. For now, Julia, Jessica, thanks for joining the Weekend Show.
Thank you.
I'm Anthony Davis. Don't forget to support me and independent journalism at patreon.com/5minute News or by joining the 5 Minute News YouTube channel. I'll come back next Sunday with a brand new special clip.
So that was the weekend version. Oh god, that was still our first one? Oof. No, a lot of these are today. This one was yesterday.
Hey there. I know this might seem out of the blue, but I was wondering if you might pray with me real quick.
No.
In breaking news, another federal judge, this time in San Francisco, has found that Trump's Department of Justice is just not believable and credible, has entered a temporary restraining order stopping the mass firings of probationary workers throughout the federal workforce, finding that the Office of Personnel Management, the puppet of Doge and Musk, that's been used to give the axe and swing the axe to all those employees, doesn't have the power to do that. And didn't believe a word the Department of Justice said about, we didn't make the order, we just made a recommendation. BS. And the judge called him on it and entered the order to stop the mass firings. I'm Michael Popak. You're right where you want to be. Midas Touch and Legal AF. Let's talk about Judge Alsop's new order coming out of San Francisco Federal Court. As we've said before, keep your eye closely on the San Francisco Federal Courthouse. I've been in that courthouse. I've argued in that courthouse. I know where the coffee is nearby to that courthouse. But more importantly, the judges there are moderate. They are Biden, Clinton, Obama appointees by and large. They sit in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. They are important to the protection of our democracy, our rule of law at this critical moment where federal judges, lawyers, labor unions, attorneys general, public interest groups are all joining together to oppose Donald Trump and his worst immoral, unpatriotic, unconstitutional instincts. Judge Alsop had before him a case brought by the AFL-CIO. The AFL-CIO, the largest labor union in the country, represents many of the federal workers that are at the short end of this particular stick of being fired. The target for Donald Trump in this case that was up for grabs with Judge Alsop are what we call probationary employees. Don't be fooled by the title. Makes it sound like they're kind of temps or, substitute teachers for the day. Sorry for substitute teachers. But they are very, very important, both substitute teachers and probationary employees. They are actually, according to Judge Alsop, the lifeblood of our government and government service because they come in at kind of low level, low rank. They get trained up. They move through the ranks and they become expert. And they, as the lower level come in, the other people at the top retire. And we have proper services being provided to our to Americans, citizens. And the judge did not buy for a moment in issuing his temporary restraining order. We're up to over 40 temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions already. He didn't buy the Department of Justice argument that the Office of Personnel Management didn't actually fire anybody. They just recommended that they be fired, Judge. The judge said, I'm going to issue the restraining order, temporary restraining order for now, which is going to stop the Office of Personnel Management from exercising any power or authority over firing, because they don't have that power. Agencies have to make that decision. Cabinet level people, confirmed by the Senate, and all of that have to make that decision. Not the Office of Personnel Management. Now, it didn't come up in the hearing, but we know it from other cases. Is who is in control of the server, the email server for the Office of Personnel Management? Elon Musk. And he's a coward. And he sends out firing emails. He fires out firing emails from hr@opm.com. Nothing says I'm a coward like an anonymous HR email firing somebody. We know that there's a linkage between the Department of Government Efficiency and Services, Doge and Musk, and the Office of Personnel Management. It will burst out into the open in a case like this, I assure you. For right now, the judge is like, I am not buying what you're selling, Department of Justice. You're telling me that the memo that went out, which said, quote, we ask that you separate probationary employees who are not mission critical by the 17th of February was not an order? And the problem that the Department of Justice has is that there's other sworn under oath testimony going on around the country in other federal courthouses and in Congress. On Tuesday, just before the judge entered the temporary restraining order and it became evidence in the case, the head of Veterans Affairs for Donald Trump testified to Congress and in response to a Democratic member question, had to admit that they got a direction. She called it a direction to fire probationary workers from the Office of Personnel Management. Sworn testimony came into the courtroom. That's why when the Department of Justice said it was just
Oh, you're
aspirational.
fine.
We
Don't give
didn't
me
realize
that.
they were going to actually
Don't
fire
give me
all of
that,
them.
you little
The judge says, let
monster.
me get this straight.
You know you're fine.
This is almost a paraphrase, almost a direct paraphrase.
You
from the
know
judge's
I'm
here.
not
Let me
going to
this
get
straight.
you.
There's
You know I'm not going to
amputations,
get
his
you.
word, going on all over the government.
Don't look at me in that tone of voice.
Simultaneously and coordinated.
Don't you look at me in that tone of
And
voice.
it's aberrational. It's never happened in our history before.
You know you're not going to
want me
get
to
anything
believe
but
that all
lovings.
of these federal
You know
agencies
you're not going to get
independently
anything
just
but
decided
lovings.
one morning to fire all
Yeah,
the
you know
probationary
you're not
workers,
getting anything but
and that
lovings.
wasn't off a command from the
monster.
Office of Personnel Management that doesn't
Yeah.
even have that power? Ridiculous. I'm not buying it. The evidence points the other way, and I
Okay,
want in
stop.
my courtroom in 2 weeks. I want the head of the Office of Personnel Management, Mr.
Yeah,
Izell,
let's sat there
to come
and
in here
show
and
me that you
testify.
thought I was being
And
a dominant.
that's going to be the
I
hearing
was
of the
being
preliminary judge. In the
nothing.
meantime, I'm going to
What do you
issue
expect?
this restraining order. You are to reinstate the probationary employees in the agencies that are the subject of this lawsuit.
Never
So it's
dominate.
limited
No.
to the
I'm not
group that
to
the
dominate.
AFL-CIO
I'm not to
sued in
dominate.
this particular case.
I'm not to
Veterans
dominate.
Affairs,
No.
Small
I'm
Business
not to
Administration,
dominate.
Land Management, Department of Defense. But the judge, a little bit of magical thinking here, looked that same untrustworthy Department of Justice attorney in the eye and said, I expect the government to do the right thing and let all the other agencies know of my ruling.
You were such a ham. You know that?
Backyard chilling. But fleas and ticks are out there too. Protect your pet with 50% off your first auto.
Know of my ruling.
You were such a ham.
I like
you
you,
are.
Judge Alsop.
You're such
I
a
think
ham.
you're a fantastic judge. You've been on the bench for a long time.
What?
But I'd also like
What,
a unicorn in my backyard and craft
What?
stone bricks. I'm not getting that either. If you think this Department of Justice, headed by Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, is going to tell the other agencies about your order when it doesn't apply to them, I don't think so. But the good news is there are other judges handling other matters involving the Office of Personnel Management and the Department of Government Efficiency. It must
Yeah, but-
all simultaneously.
Yeah, but-
I mean, I just reported on one yesterday. A judge in
And you
D.C.
look right at the camera, too.
who got fed up with not being
You
able
little ham.
for any lawyer for the Department of
You
Justice
little
to explain
ham.
what DOGE is and what it does and what its superpowers are, what its limitations are, who's in charge of it. What's Elon Musk's role? So he said, yeah, I'm going to allow 8 hours of deposition, sworn testimony under oath in this case, because I'm 3 weeks into a case, the judge said, and I don't even understand it, it's so opaque. Let's get to the bottom of DOGE and the rest of it. There is this connectivity between DOGE and the Office of Personnel Management that hasn't yet been explored in courts, but it will be. When you have 100 cases going on at the same time throughout the country against the Trump administration, and you have all of these hearings, and each one of these temporary restraining orders, each one of these preliminary injunctions, over 45 to 50 now, each one had a major hearing with evidence, with affidavits, with submissions, and that's where we get them. Because all of those affidavits, you can pull them from the public docket. And that's what the lawyers in all the various cases are doing. Now, I'm sure there's a clearinghouse where they're sharing all of this information. Just Security has one. You go on justsecurity.com, you'll see the clearinghouse. So if I'm a lawyer handling one case, I want every affidavit, every sworn statement made by every government official in every other case, and look for consistencies and inconsistencies. And in the inconsistencies is where victory lies.
Yes.
They're lying to the court. They're taking inconsistent positions. It's already come out. It's already been mentioned by judges that there's filings that are not consistent, and we got to get to the bottom of it with more evidence. That's where a judge's natural instincts are. You know what? I can't figure it out. Go take some depositions, sworn statements under question and answers under oath. Go look at some documents. Come back to me, and I, as a trier of fact, will figure it out with you. That's the natural instincts, and that's to our benefit. At the same time, all of those filings. Picture, we were already probably, I'm not kidding, it's probably 50 filings already in each case. You're looking at 2,500 pieces of paper that have already been filed in these various cases, and they're all being accumulated and sorted through AI and real eye by lawyers trying to figure out all this. Separately, you've got Congress and the Democrats in Congress in opposition, who during hearings are doing searing, excruciatingly proctologist-style examinations of government officials for Donald Trump in front of them, which is then useful to use those statements in courtrooms. So they end up coming in this biofeedback loop, right? And we cover it all, we break it all down. We say breaking, it's because it just happened. It doesn't mean there hasn't been 3 or 4 breaking things in the same day. because Donald Trump's busy breaking things. See? It is early in the morning, but I did get that out. But thanks for being here on Midas Touch and Legal AF. Follow me, Michael Popak, on all things Legal AF. Legal AF, the YouTube channel. We're growing to 500,000
right.
in the first 6 months.
So that way can extra balance
over
you.
Legal AF at MTN.
Whoop.
Popak Live, a new podcast
You're
on
moving your
Tuesday
booty.
nights.
Don't move your booty.
8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this Midas Touch YouTube channel. Legal AF, the original OG podcast
You're okay.
for law and politics.
You're
Top
okay.
10 in the
Don't do
world.
that. Don't do
Hard to
that.
believe it's really on YouTube, and we're humbled by it. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on this
Yeah,
Midas
I'm not
Touch
gonna actually
YouTube
let you
channel,
fall.
and then on audio podcast platforms of your choice.
Not gonna happen.
Until my next
You're not gonna
recording,
fall.
I'm Michael Popak. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel.
So, in all technicality, that's all for today's session. As you can see, playing with this booger a little bit. And a booger she is.
There they are, the dream team. Today's going to be a great day.
Oh,
my
you
God,
idiot.
you've got so much stock to put out. Do you want some help? Oh my God, you've got so much stock to put out. Oh shit, are you skyping too? Because I'm really annoying customers just come in. Yeah, me too. Got any snacks? Oh shit, are you skyping too? Oh, I'd rather be with a customer. Oh yeah, this is definitely a two-man job. I 100% think that we should do it together. It'd be way more efficient. No, it's fine. I can do it by myself. It's all good. You can just, fuck off. You can go on break first. It's fine. I honestly don't mind. Just go. Go on break. So you go on break first. Oh, my watch is not.
What?
What's that? You need help with the tills, right? Well, why are you only telling me now? Hold on, sweetie. I'm coming. What's that? You need help with the tills. Hey, you wait another 10 minutes. Oh, man. What a day. That shit absolutely flew by. We going for drinks then or what? Well, that was absolute torture. You guys have working tomorrow, are you? You are?
Accurate. Alright. Time to stop this one and start up the midday chill. Maybe I should play some rules.